Good afternoon, everybody. As you noted, I'm Rawlson King, Ottawa City Councillor for Rita Rockcliffe, and I want to really thank the India Canada Consortium, especially community leaders, Mrs. and Dr. Gosh, for the invitation to participate in this panel. And I also want to acknowledge all the guests in the panels and our wonderful moderator, Sam, who's doing an excellent job. But before I describe some of the actions that the city has been taking to address the challenging economic conditions caused by COVID-19, I would really like to acknowledge the challenge that the pandemic is creating in India, where cases, I understand, have now surpassed 18 million, and where daily death figures have reached nearly 3,500 people a day. With a shortage of hospital beds, medication, mechanical ventilators, and oxygen, I remind people, if they can, to donate to charities to address this challenge. It's very important. Charities such as Care India and the Red Cross are accepting monetary donations, and I would encourage, especially being the council liaison for anti-racism and ethnocultural relations, I would encourage all Ottawans to really consider donating if they can. We don't want to see this type of humanitarian crisis really expand. We want India to come back strong. We know it will, and we want to ensure that we contribute to those efforts. So we know that these are very challenging times, and the city is coming together to find ways to support Ottawa's small businesses, restaurants, tourism operations, and special events, as well as their employees, who are all hurting deeply as a result of the pandemic. In fact, my office held a small business roundtable with advocate Michael Wood during the early stages of the pandemic in 2020 to hear from local businesses and to provide an opportunity for these businesses to advocate with senior levels of government, with city staff, really to provide input. And I think that some of that input did influence policy. I was also happy to add a direction very recently at council to enhance social procurement opportunities around our COVID-19 recovery efforts at the city, which would specifically benefit racialized, Indigenous, and people of color. So I think it's important to recognize that different levels of governments do different things. Senior levels of government are the levels of government where businesses would probably access grants and contributions and services. Not so much with the municipal government, but the municipal government is a big buyer of services. In fact, our city spends over $1 billion in contracts, and so it is important for minority-owned businesses to have opportunities to access those contracts. And that was part of the thinking behind the social procurement motion and direction that we advance at council, to see how we can enhance these opportunities for different groups who don't typically have access to these opportunities. I'm also a member of our local Business Improvement Association, the Quarter Vanier Business Association. And as a member of that board, I was happy to support, through a vote, a levy rebate to local BIA members, mostly who are small businesses. It was obvious that we needed to provide as much relief as possible to our small businesses, and a very tangible way of doing that was ensuring a rebate to some of those members who were not seeing their full fees being utilized in the neighborhood because of the challenges confronted by COVID. So we thought it would be very important to do that. That's also one of the reasons why I'm backing the city's exploration of the potential of some small business relief through taxes. And we're examining doing that through looking at the different tax classes in the sub-business category and adjusting them. So as we know, some retailers are doing very well. We saw box stores that were able to sell not just essential goods, but all sorts of goods. And they seem to have been prospering and doing well, while small businesses on main streets have had more challenges. And right now, city staff is examining just raising that subclass for those larger businesses like box stores just a bit, so that we can provide some level of relief to small business owners. So continue to watch what occurs at City Hall. We are going to continue to make movements towards tax relief for small business. And I can say that we've taken an extensive number of actions. I'm not going to outline all of them, but I'm going to outline some of them at the city. So as you might be aware, the city did create an economic partners task force, and that was created by Mayor Jim Watson and is composed of leaders of the business community. And the task force will advise city staff on how the city can help the business community as the pandemic evolves. We also introduced in 2020 different municipal tax measures. So the city offered a penalty-free payment grace period on all 2020 interim property tax bills, noting that there were many challenges that both residential and small business property owners were having at the beginning of the pandemic. At the city as well, we did really basic tangible things, such as ensuring that we would suspend all water service disconnections due to non-payment. That's very important because there was a lot of financial challenges on both residents and businesses. We also created and extended a water bill grace period. And we also ensured that we made people aware of property tax and water utility deferment programs that we have for low-income seniors and persons with disabilities. We also had a grace period for corporate accounts receivable invoices. And we did very tangible things because we're the level of government that is delivering specific services that most people interface with every day. So basic things that where the rubber meets the road, we literally suspended enforcement of overtime parking on residential streets for an extended period of time, noting that we wanted, especially during the early times in this pandemic, for people to stay home and not to worry about basic things as to like where they had left their car. We also looked at the suspension of particular building inspections, especially around personal dwellings, long-term care facilities, hospitals, daycares, and facilities. We extended license renewal periods. We adjusted rental adjustments for businesses that rented space within city facilities. And on the social front, we ensured that we had extra supports for individuals experiencing homelessness, as well as establishing a human needs task force that looked at expanding investments in social services. Through those mechanisms in my own ward, we were able to secure $75,000 of extra funding that went into social services, especially food insecurity, ensuring that we enhanced food banks within my ward, especially within my ward, since we have some of the highest food bank use, unfortunately, in the city. The other key thing that I would like to point out is that we worked hand in hand with the community, and this is where I was very gratified. And this is a very tangible thing that I think that we did for community members, was worked with community associations to raise money for charity. And that money was for the food bank. So we raised $73,000 primarily for food security. But what we did was inventive in our neighborhood. And I hope that this actually spreads across the city. So we raised that money, but we spent that money at local businesses, the local bakery, other food providers. And those dollars went directly into those businesses that were hurting. And that money, as example, the bread that was purchased went directly to the food bank. So we set up a program where we ensured that small businesses prospered and that the most needy in our community also obtained resources. So I'm very proud of that. As this is a discussion around digital technologies, I want to also note that Invest Ottawa, our economic development arm, participated in a project that allows for storefronts to move digitally online. So we were providing those resources to many of our small businesses, especially within my ward. So I'll just note that the city has been doing within its scope of jurisdiction a tremendous amount of work to support small businesses, and we won't stop. We'll continue to really support those businesses that have been hurting, to ensure that when we do get to the other side of this pandemic, the economic recovery will be swift and will be massively impactful and beneficial to both our residents and the economy as well. So I'd like to thank you for inviting me here today, and thank you for the work that you're doing as well to promote small business. It's much appreciated.
Thank you, Rawlson. That was really informative. I think one thing people don't realize is that city councilors are grassroots. The first voice always goes to you, and you see firsthand the real